Hey Sagittarius, welcome to Dark Eve Tarot. I'm Eve, and we're going to do a monster reading for you. We're going to look at an external monster and an internal monster. So let's just get started here with external for Sagittarius. Alright. So the first placement here is kind of like an identifier to help you identify what this external monster is. And we see here the Four of Wands. So what I'm getting from this is that this external monster of yours, it kind of like it seems like it wants to ruin like your special time, your special day, your accomplishments. It could be in the form of like just belittling or kind of shrugging off anything that feels special for you. I can see this being like a little bit underhanded, except that when I get really into the imagery here, there's broken things, there's fire. It's basically like tearing down any form of something that tears down any form of, I want to say, accomplishment or accolades that you have. And this next card here, this is just a card, something about you. Interesting. We have the King of Wands here. That's very Sagittarius. It's almost like this is you in your shadow. It's like a little bit more of a vicious side of you, Sagittarius. The kind that doesn't take shit from anyone or anything. And it's interesting that it's showing up. It's almost like you're meant to stand up to this, whatever this monster is, outside of you. So here, this is something that you don't see about the monster. Wow. Okay, so this is the Page of Wands. It's funny all this fire is showing up for you, Sagittarius, but the pages in this deck are kind of like the hunters. And so you've got some kind of, I want to say that you have some kind of assistance around you, some kind of, hunter assistance that is actually helping with whatever this monster is destroying of yours, and you're not seeing it. This could be a young person standing up on your behalf. And here, this last placement here, this is kind of like the goal of this monster. And this monster could be a person, it could be a situation. It's almost like their purpose or goal, or its purpose or goal, is to get you to doubt yourself, to see if they can get you, number one, alone. It's like isolated. It's like it wants you to be isolated. It wants you to be alone. It wants you to doubt yourself. It wants you to pin yourself, in a corner. It wants you to limit yourself. And so what's the advice? What's the advice here for dealing with this external monster situation? for Sagittarius for the external monster. Okay, so first card out is Strength, and this makes a lot of sense, especially considering this King of Wands here is kind of depicting you here, Sagittarius. This is something that you can absolutely stand up to. And so we also have Otherworldly and the Necropolis. And what I like about this Necropolis is that it almost like, okay, so with Otherworldly, it's kind of like it feels out of your control. What can I actually do about this? Like what? Do I just stand up and say a few harsh words and that's going to make everything better, you know? But because that's what this other world, it feels like it's out of your grasp. You don't have control over the situation. It's out, out of your hands. But this necropolis, it's like if it is out of your hands or if it is otherworldly, it's like this necropolis is. I mean, it looks like there's old vines on it and stuff. It's like it's eroding. It's old, right? It's like, and when things are old and eroding, it's like, how easy it is to knock them down with just a little strength. And especially since you have this, it seems like you have backup or some extra support, really. This is someone who has your back, Sagittarius. And I feel like with this extra support and a little bit of strength, you can totally knock this down, meaning preventing the situation or this person from knocking down what you've built, what you've accomplished, right? Even if it's just like in an emotional sense or whatever. So there's the external message. Now we're going to look at internal, because everyone has an internal monster. It is called your shadow. And I guess if you follow like Jungian archetypes or psychology or whatever, it's best to look at your shadow and use it to your benefit. Use it as a catalyst for change within you, right? But we're just gonna look at the monster inside of you. We're gonna look at it pretty much the same way we did for external. So the identifier here. Oh, okay. So this is it's another king, but it's mental. This is self-deception. This is all the ways that you lie to yourself, Sagittarius. So if you really want to identify this monster within you or this shadow within you, it is easily identifiable by the way that you tell yourself little lies, and it can be lies for positive or lies for negative. It's the fact that they're not true, and you convince yourself of things that are not true. Like I want to say against yourself. Another way to identify this monster within you is to, pay attention to triggers, of course. And I'm seeing a trigger here of like something being said or something happening or whatever, and then you being very, very, very adamant, like unnecessarily adamant about something. I feel like that is a trigger that comes from that reaction comes from your shadow. It triggers your shadow. So here, let's look at a card here, just a card to describe you. So this is either the Knight or the Page of Pentacles. I forgot which ones were which in this deck. I just feel like this, I'm just feeling some dissatisfaction. Here, there's something, you're not satisfied, Sagittarius. It's like you're holding this pentacle, and you're like, this is it? This is all I have, or this is all I get? It feels very, like you're very dissatisfied. It's not, something is not enough. I don't know what it is, but it is of the material world. It could, it could be money. But it's obvious that there's something here that you are not getting enough of. Maybe it's touch, like maybe you're not getting enough physical touch. Maybe you just need a hug. I don't know. But the next card here, this is what you don't see. This is what you don't see about your internal monster. Oh dear, that it hovers right over you. It is there when you're sleeping. Wow. You know what? I don't really think that you realize how enormous this shadow is. This is a huge shadow. It's like this huge shadow, and it rules over you. And I think the only times that you actually notice it are when you wake up from a bad dream or something. It's almost like the only time this internal monster of yours gets a chance to say anything about anything is when you're like this rigid part of your conscious falls away when you're sleeping. And it can actually act out the things it wants to tell you and say to you, and it acts out the feelings that you don't let yourself feel. And you know what I mean? And for others of you, this could just be like, like when like you're at work or something and you have a shitty day, and like you can't really fully express yourself. You can't say all your thoughts at work. You don't want to get fired or whatever. So you come home, and then like all night long you're just overplaying. You're just having all of these arguments in your head with that person. It's like and it just irks you, and it's like you can't let it go. Like those are those triggers, right? It's triggering your shadow. It's like making your shadow bigger and bigger, and eventually it's gonna wake you up. And so this placement right here, Sagittarius, this is if you don't look at it, if you choose to ignore it, right? If you choose to ignore your monster. So here we have the Knight of Cups. The Knight of Cups can offer false promises. So if you don't look at your monster, if you don't look, like face your monster and use it to transform or alchemize, at least choose to not integrate it, then it's like it's like cheers to false promises here. It makes it seem like nothing's gonna work out right. I don't know, that seems kind of harsh. I mean, like the Knight of Cups can also bring messages of love. But the thing is, it's like the Knight of Cups can also be very hesitant. Like it's not racing, like the horse isn't racing off like the Knight of Swords, right? It's like, how about you meet me halfway? So, if you don't face this monster, it's going to be harder to find it. And it's funny because it sounds like a trick. Like, well, great. I would love to not ever look at it ever, right? But you're going to need to because it's a source of power for you. And why do you need that source of power? For all of this. So let's get some advice. Advice for Sagittarius, their internal monster. It's weird. It's almost like this, like this figure on this horse is kind of just like holding up, like they're holding up a drink or something, and they're going, all right, fine. Have fun tackling all that shit without me. It's like the shadow or the monster, it knows. It knows that you need it. Oh, interesting. So when I did this on myself, every spread I come up with, I always test it on myself first. And I got this one. This one's interesting because it's melting, right? And it's like, what do you mean? How can that be the advice? But melting is, to me, it's like talking about a form of alchemy. It talks about, like, for you, it's like this willingness to let yourself alchemize. And like the shadow can be that catalyst, that thing that sparks. It can be the thing that sparks your creativity. It can be that thing that sparks new ventures in your life. It is a source of strength. It's a source of power. And like melting in a way is letting go of some other form or some other structure of something. It's like a willingness to melt. Break free of whatever mold you've been in for quite some time. Yeah, I get to work at it. The Eight of Pentacles. So I get to work at that. Get to work, like disassemble, right? Disassemble. I mean, are you striving for for perfection? You want to be a more perfect version of yourself? Allow yourself to melt, and let your shadow help you. All right, Sagittarius. So this is your monster message, and I will see you next time. Just take what resonates, and I'll see you later. Bye.